Howdy everyone, it's been a long time, I know, but don't fear, I am back. On the left here, we often talk about the importance of labor unions, at least I like to. Given the relevance of them, especially now, I think it's good to take a more analytical look at them. I mean, while unions may be a good idea, just intuitively, it sounds good, how do the statistics actually bear out? What do unions actually do? Who do they actually affect? And are conservatives right in being skeptical? Well, let's find out. One of the most controversial issues in America today is the receding prominence of private sector labor unions, especially in the Midwest. This decline, and the consequences thereof, begs the question, are labor unions a worthwhile asset to uphold not only to the American economy, but to American workers, or are they a net liability for the working class? Despite the negative repercussions that some unions may have, those negative effects aren't impossible to fix or offset. Overall, unions are a worthwhile and valuable asset to society. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to go over what labor unions are and the reason for their decline, the negative connotations associated with them, and the positive socioeconomic effects that they appear to have. Before we talk about the effects of unions and their controversy in contemporary American politics, what even are labor unions? Labor unions can be a fairly loaded term, so let's define it from the start so we have the same reference point. Labor unions are organizations that represent workers and their interests to protect them and make advancements in their pay and benefits. Pragmatically, what this means is that unions basically just bargain for higher wages, healthcare benefits, and better working conditions. However, unions are on a decline in the United States. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there are currently 14.6 million union members, which is down from 17.7 in 1983. Further illustrating this reality, the percentage of workers who are in a union has been halved. Around 10% of workers today are in union, down from 20% again from 1983. Finally, compared to other countries, in 2016, the United States had the 5th lowest percentage of labor union workers in the OECD. This decline is largely born out of the decline in manufacturing jobs in the Rust Belt, states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, which itself is largely born out of the transnational trade deals such as NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, which stimulates trade between Canada, USA, and Mexico, and has resulted in the outsourcing of manufacturing jobs to Mexico. By looking at the decline of a specific industry, and the correlated decline between unions, we can see that unions haven't specifically been on the decline, but rather it is jobs that are more simply likely to have been unionized that are declining. However, it is undeniable that this is also the result of various Ronald Reagan-era union-busting policies, such as vetoing the Agricultural Relations Act, which would have given the industry the right to collectively bargain, as well as firing 13,000 air traffic controllers on strike, completely destroying their already existing union, and banned them for life from working in a government job. Nevertheless, the culmination of these factors has, and quite understandably so, resulted in a decrease in the prominence of labor unions, which to some people is a good thing. Now that we know what labor unions are and their contemporary decline in the United States, what are some of the negative effects of them? Why are some people okay with, or even encouraging, a decline in unions? There are a myriad of reasons for why any given person may dislike the idea or the effects of unions. Firstly, according to Labor Unions, Political Representation and Economic Inequality by John S. Alquist, labor unions may result in higher inflation and unemployment. Alquist continues, high levels of decentralized bargaining can lead to higher unemployment and inflation. Here we see that a problem arises if unions are, quote, decentralized and are not a streamlined organization. He follows up and explains what decentralized unions are. Quote, if unions and firms were to bargain at the industry or sector level, then unions might better internalize the cost of their wage settlements, ideally leading to moderation, more egalitarian wage outcomes, and lower unemployment and inflation. So what he's implying here is that yes, some unions may lead to higher unemployment and inflation, but we can also see that this is not specific to unions as a whole. This can be fixed by having unions more focused on a specific industry rather than spanning multiple industries or even statewide. This aspect should be considered if someday we want to increase the prevalence of unions, organizing them at a more local level to help mitigate some of these negative externalities. Another reason that someone may be opposed to unions, and a problem that unions have in the United States in general, unfortunately, is that unions protect some workers more than others. In the same paper, Alquist elaborates on this issue. In some countries, notably France, Portugal, and Spain, the wedge, which is the difference between the union density rate and the proportion of workers covered by union negotiated contracts, is considerable. and union presence in the economy is unequally distributed across firms and sectors. What he's talking about here is something that we very obviously have in the United States as well. Unions are just not a nationwide phenomenon like they used to be, and are heavily saturated in some industries and non-existent in others. Manufacturing, for instance, is heavily unionized, as well as many public sector jobs, such as teachers, firefighters, and policemen. However, in other industries, such as the service industry, the prevalence of unions are essentially non-existent. This leads to some workers in certain industries having more protections than others. This, in turn, leads to even more economic inequality within the working class itself, which is the opposite thing that unions strive to do. Although, and some of you may have realized this by just listening, this problem can be solved by unions being a more commonplace option for workers in all industries. And while this may seem like a distant thing to aspire to in the United States, it's how many other countries with a high union density, such as Germany, Iceland, and others, have overcome this inequality in working rights for the working class. This way, no matter which industry you work for, you won't feel left behind in regards to your protections, benefits, and pay. Now that we've acknowledged some of the problems that people may have with labor unions, why would any country go through those obstacles for them? What are their redeeming qualities? Let's be honest, what are you here for? Well, there is an incredible amount of economic inequality throughout the United States. Such socioeconomic inequality is a very, very unique issue to the United States, as it is the only developed first world country with its inequality on this magnitude. According to the Pew Research Center, economic inequality has doubled from 1989 to 2016 in the United States. And of course, there are a plethora of policies that can be implemented to fight this trend, including investments in education, affordable housing, transportation, and of course, the expansion of labor unions. Referring back to Alquist, he mentions that while there may be some gaps in connecting causality, quote, in rich democracies, unionization correlates with greater distribution of income, economic risk, and demonstrating that unions can be political actors. Alquist points out that in many countries with a high density of unionized workers, such as Iceland, Finland, Denmark, and Germany, have a higher correlation with the distribution of income, less economic inequality, and higher economic mobility for the working class. That last part is crucial: economic mobility. Economic mobility is a measure of how easily someone from the lower class can get to the middle or upper class and vice versa. Unions can help solve some of these problems by negotiating for higher pay and benefits for blue-collar jobs. Economic inequality in the United States is a deep, systemic issue, and labor unions won't solve all of its problems. But labor unions and expansions on workers' protections are crucial on the path towards a more fair economy. Finally, unions can be a symbol of workers' rights. In the capitalist economy that we live in today, the common worker does not have the negotiating power or bargaining power in order to secure and guarantee a living wage and benefits for themselves. Unions ratify these problems by pooling the collective power of thousands of workers, and this collective bargaining exceeds the sum of its parts, ensuring the needs of workers are at the very least pressured. We can see this according to The Union Threat by Matthew... I'm sorry, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that.
Matthew Tashro de Mout.
The mere existence of a powerful union has such influence that it spills over to non-unionized sectors of the economy, resulting in unions who aren't even privy to the union itself receive many of the benefits that other workers have fought for in order to prevent or discourage unionization from occurring within non-unionized firms. And while this phenomenon results in a lower profit margin for non-unionized firms, it also results in decreasing economic inequality that's riddled throughout nearly all industries in the United States, which I personally believe is the more important problem to address, because the problem of economic inequality isn't solved with making sure companies' profit margins are as high as they can be. Just to recap, in this video, I went over what unions are, and the reasons for their decline, the potential negative effects or connotations associated with them, and the potential positive effects of unions and expanding workers' rights. And again, we can see evidence through all of this by looking at how other comparable OECD countries treat unions and the positive outcomes unions tend to create. Through researching this topic myself, I believe that the negatives that unions may pose can be sidestepped by a developed first world country such as the United States of America, the same way that many other countries have done, and that the remaining negatives are vastly outweighed by the positive effects. For this reason, I think that unions are a net benefit to the American economy, not because it grows the economy in the most cutthroat, efficient way, because it makes the economy more just and enables the working class to be more economically opportunistic. In America, the land of the free, this is the type of result we should strive for. which is why I believe that labor unions are a very worthwhile asset to uphold in our economy. And hopefully, with our current administration, we can see some of those policies be implemented. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Again, I apologize for my absence. I was focusing on the end of this goddamn semester, which is finally over. My finals are done. Completed my last one. Day of recording. Completed my last one yesterday. Feels great. Feels good. Feeling liberated. But yeah, I should be able to start getting back to making videos more regularly now that I am done with school. No promises though, okay? I gotta keep you guys desperate, okay? Sorry if I sound different. I'm not on script, so I'm kind of in a more rambly tone. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and I will hopefully see you sooner than I did last time. Bye.